Your family taught you the importance and value of money, and they even frequently talked about the freedom that money provides. They taught you to save, gave you advice about debt and borrowing. They emphasized again and again how hard work opens every door, and you listened. So please, someone explain this to me. Why is our income still not enough? Why do we barely make it to the end of the month? Why is there always that question lurking in the corner of your mind? What will I do if something comes up? The truth is, while your family wanted to protect you, they unknowingly gave you a broken roadmap, and you're trying to find the right path with that map. Today we're fixing that map together. I'm Sammy. On this channel I explain and share things that even your family doesn't know and won't tell you. We openly discuss financial topics that most people can't learn for years, find confusing, fear, and avoid. You're not alone anymore. Uncle Sammy is always with you. If you want to continue learning about financial topics that nobody tells you about, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. If you're ready, let's begin. Now I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to be honest when you answer. If you woke up tomorrow morning and an unexpected expense came up, a car breakdown, an emergency medical expense, a broken appliance, and this expense was exactly $1,000, would you panic? According to the Federal Reserve's most recent research, 45% of Americans had to answer yes to this question. Look, 45%. This means that 1 out of every 2 people around you will either reach for a credit card, borrow from someone, or calculate which bill they can postpone to cover a $1,000 emergency expense. Moreover, the vast majority of these people aren't lazy or irresponsible. On the contrary, they go to work at 8 in the morning. They do everything they can for their families. They struggle to get their lives in order. The problem isn't with them. The problem is precisely with the financial logic they've learned. Now you might be thinking, but Sammy, everyone says to save an emergency fund. I already know this. You're right, of course you know. In fact, almost all of us know this. Set aside 3 to 6 months of expenses. Rainy days will certainly come, save for those days. This and similar advice is everywhere, even in every YouTube video. What I mean is, the problem isn't lack of information. The problem, the real reasons why these savings are so critical are never explained. Because we've always been given the same framework. Protect yourself in case of emergency. Like insurance, it's your safety net for bad days. This is true but very incomplete. The real power of cash isn't that it protects you against bad days. The real power is right here. Cash fundamentally changes every decision you make, every negotiation, and every opportunity. And nobody told you this, did they? Today I'm telling you. Right here on this channel in this video, researchers from Princeton and Harvard studied how financial pressure affects the human brain. The results were published in a study called Scarcity, and the findings are truly disturbing. Financial stress doesn't just make you anxious, it also physically reduces your cognitive capacity. Look, think of it this way. Your brain has bandwidth, and it's limited every day as you calculate how to pay rent, whether you'll have enough for groceries this month, which bill can wait, when that debt will be paid. While you're calculating these things, a part of your brain is constantly busy, like an application running in the background. You don't see the screen, but it's draining your battery. Researchers call this tunneling. So every brain exposed to this condition focuses directly on the problem in front of it, and everything outside the tunnel becomes blurry. How you'll position yourself for a promotion, the health issue you need to get checked, the investment you need to make in your future, all of these become background noise. Because your brain doesn't have much energy left while trying to get through this month. This isn't a character flaw. It's certainly not a lack of willpower. This is precisely the measurable and documented effect of financial pressure on cognitive functions. Now let's imagine the complete opposite. Say you have 6 months of expenses in a savings account. This money is earning 4% interest. You know that money is there, meaning you can access this money at any time. And you take this thought with you to your workplace. During salary negotiations, when deciding whether to take a risk, it's always on your mind. This cash cushion does something deep in your psychology. It silences the constantly ringing financial anxiety alarm. It frees up your bandwidth, meaning it allows you to think strategically. You can make long-term plans. You're not in scarcity mode. You can make healthy decisions with a secure mindset. In the US, the average unemployment duration, or more precisely the time to find a new job and start working, is currently about 23 weeks. That's close to 6 months. And this is an average situation. If you're in your 50 seconds, working in a field requiring expertise, or changing sectors, the duration is even longer. If you don't have savings on the side, this reality creates invisible chains for you. Even if you don't want to, you're forced to stay in a job that's poisoning you. Because you can't risk the gap between paychecks. You tolerate a manager who systematically belittles you because the alternative seems too risky. You accept below-market wages because the idea of being unemployed and job hunting is more frightening than low pay. Now think about this. Say there are two people working at the same company in the same position under the same manager. One has saved 8 months of expenses. The other lives paycheck to paycheck. When annual review time comes, both ask for a raise. The one with savings can be patient. They can even reject the first offer. They can put forward market figures. If the company refuses, they can job hunt while waiting for the right opportunity, because they don't need to panic. The one without savings sits at that table with a completely different psychology. Every negotiation carries the weight of potential disaster. Being too insistent feels dangerous. Demands shrink, acceptance and submission accelerate. Compromise happens almost automatically. Over a 10-year career, the cumulative earnings difference between these two people, completely identical in skills and experience, can reach 6 figures. And this is just from the difference in negotiation psychology. Meaning the cash cushion pays for itself many times over. Because knowing you can quit your job whenever you want changes everything. You may never have to quit. What matters is that the possibility of leaving is there, real and accessible, and this knowledge spreads to everything you do. When you see San Diego researchers analyze millions of housing transactions, they encountered a surprising situation. They discovered that cash buyers purchased homes on average 9% to 10% cheaper compared to buyers requiring mortgages. In 2025, this discount rose to 9%. This means more than double the rate from 4 years ago. If we convert this to a number, the median American home is approximately $410,000. When we apply a 9% discount, it means we're saving close to $37,000. Look, this isn't a coupon or a special offer. It's the premium the seller accepts in return for not having to take on financing uncertainty. So why do sellers agree to less money? Answer: certainty, speed, and reduced risk. 5% to 6% of mortgage transactions fail. Financing doesn't work out. Appraisal comes in low. Last-minute complications arise. In this case, the seller returns to zero, starting everything from scratch. This is exactly where cash eliminates these variables. Of course, most people can't pay cash for a home, but the real message here is this. Having cash fundamentally changes your negotiating position in dozens of transactions. For example, when your car breaks down and you need a replacement vehicle, cash gives you options. You can buy at a better price from a private seller. You can negotiate without waiting for financing approval. You can reject a bad offer because you're not desperate. Or when you want to rent an apartment, landlords notice when you can pay several months up front. When hiring contractors for home renovation, cash payment sometimes unlocks discounts that weren't on the table. When negotiating with any seller, if you're not borrowing from them, your position is much stronger. So cash is leverage. And this leverage accumulates through hundreds of small interactions throughout your life. What most people don't realize is that being without savings doesn't just leave you vulnerable, it also causes you to pay more every passing day. Economists call this the poverty premium. It's a kind of hidden tax on financial instability. Let's look at how it works. You saw some products on sale but don't have the cash to buy in bulk. You pay more per unit week by week. You can't pay the annual insurance premium, which usually means a 5% to 15% discount, and you're condemned to monthly payments. Your car's tires are worn, the air is almost completely gone, but you don't have the money to replace them, and small problems grow into emergency repair costs. You make every decision under time pressure. You have to buy now, you can't wait for a sale, you can't compare prices. You can't use employer benefits, you can't contribute enough to take advantage of 401k matching, you can't use flexible spending accounts. Guaranteed returns are waiting there and you can't access them. When you add these up individually, the annual cost of your lack of savings can reach thousands of dollars, meaning the less cash you have, the more you pay for the same goods and services. Unfortunately, this is a real paradox. In such situations, a cash cushion completely eliminates the poverty premium. When you have money, you can optimize every purchase from a value perspective, not under the pressure of urgency. An emergency fund doesn't just protect you against major crises, it also stops the daily bleeding you don't notice. There's another dimension to saving cash, and this dimension is also almost never mentioned. Cash doesn't just enable you to protect yourself against bad things, it also gives you the capacity to seize good opportunities when they come your way. Actually, opportunities never come according to a convenient schedule. Perfect job postings open when they open. Investment opportunities generally coincide with when the market crashes, not when your portfolio is ready. A business partnership offer wants capital now, not in 6 months. If you don't have savings, you constantly miss these windows. When the stock market drops 30%, everyone with cash buys at a historic discount, but you're standing on the sidelines because you have nothing to put forward. 2 years later, when the market has recovered and those buyers have locked in big gains, you're forced to just watch. These things you couldn't do cause disappointment in you. People with cash can decide whether to pursue something based on its real value because they have options. Moreover, this doesn't just apply to financial opportunities, it affects your major life decisions too. Should you go back to school for additional education? If you don't have savings, the analysis gets distorted. Initial costs look bigger. The period of reduced income feels more threatening. Long-term benefits mentally shrink because your brain is struggling with immediate pressure. Should you leave a relationship that isn't working? Your financial dependence makes this harder than it should be. Should you move to a new city? If you can't risk the gap between closing your old life and building a new one, the moving process becomes paralyzing. So in every situation, your attempt to make the right decisions becomes blurred by your financial fear. Because in this situation, you're making short-term choices based on financial constraints, not long-term life satisfaction. And these distorted decisions accumulate, causing you to live a life below what it should be. So where do we go from this point? Let's look at concrete steps together. The standard recommendation is to have 3 to 6 months of expenses ready in reserve. For someone spending $5,000 a month, this is between $15,000 and $30,000. Even though it sounds big, this is only obtained as a result of consistent behavior accumulating over time. First step, set a clear goal. Calculate your actual monthly expenses one by one. Rent or mortgage, bills, food, transportation, insurance, minimum debt payments. Multiply these by 3. Let this be your first goal. Second step, automate it. Set up automatic transfers on payday. Have a set amount regularly transferred from your account directly to your savings account. While the amount is important, consistency is even more important. $200 a month equals $2,400 a year. $500 a month equals $6,000 a year. When this behavior becomes automated and becomes a habit, the numbers add up faster than you expect. Third step, keep your money somewhere that works for you. High-yield savings accounts currently offer 4% to 5% APY. This means more than 10 times the national average. So this means between $800 and $1,000 in interest per year on $20,000. Your money is still liquid, still accessible within a few days, still earning while waiting under FDIC protection. Fourth step, put up a light barrier. At a separate bank from your checking account, without a linked debit card, you're not making the money inaccessible, you just require initiating a transfer and waiting a day or two. This delay stops the vast majority of impulse spending. Fifth step, define what a real emergency is. Anything that threatens your health, housing, or income is truly urgent, but a discounted product isn't really urgent. Spending because you're bored is outside of this. Making clear definitions prevents the fund from eroding through thousands of small rationalizations. And progress happens in 3 stages. First stage, $1,000 minus $2,000 in immediately accessible cash. This cash cuts off credit card emergencies, overdraft fees, and the daily borrowing cycle. For about half of Americans, even reaching this stage is significant progress. Second stage, having money for 3 months of expenses. At this point, sudden job loss turns from disaster into a stressful situation. A sudden health issue becomes manageable. You have time to make the right decisions instead of reacting immediately. Third stage, having money for 6 months of expenses or more. This is where psychology really transforms. You exit scarcity mode and can decide from a position of power. Now you might be thinking, but Uncle Sammy, Investing in the stock market would provide 10% return. Why should $30,000 wait at 4% interest? Yes, this math is correct. In the long run, invested money significantly outpaces a savings account. But this argument confuses two different purposes. Your emergency fund is not an investment account. This fund's job is not to provide maximum return. Its real job is to be ready, stable, and accessible when you need it. Markets can drop up to 30% for weeks. In fact, we experienced exactly this situation in March 2020. If you suddenly lose your job while your fund is invested, you're forced to sell this fund at the worst time. In this case, the protection you planned works much less than you planned. But cash is different. Whatever the number in your account is today, it is tomorrow. No volatility, no timing risk, no wondering what the market is doing when your car's transmission blows. Think of it this way. You don't expect your home's foundation to generate investment returns. You expect it to keep the structure standing. Your emergency fund is your financial foundation. Let it do its job. After the fund is fully established, definitely direct your additional savings to investment. But the foundation always comes first. This is the prerequisite that makes other financial risks possible. The truth is, the cost of being cashless is rarely about a single dramatic event. What happens more often is the accumulation of compromises. You're condemned to stay at a company that underpays because you don't have the strength to job hunt. You accept the first offer without thinking because you're desperate for certainty and clarity, even if the terms aren't good. You don't even go for a health checkup because this month's copay feels a bit expensive. You throw emergency expenses onto your credit card. What happens next? You're forced to pay 22% interest for years. Moreover, you pass on that education that would advance your career because the initial cost is high. Each compromise seems small on its own, but when they come together, they accumulate and form a path. 5 years later, you're behind where you should be in income, health, career, life satisfaction. You can trace this difference back to countless moments when financial fear shaped your decisions. This is where the cash cushion breaks this cycle. It opens up space for you to make the decision of what's truly right, not what's cheapest. It allows you to invest in yourself, negotiate confidently, take calculated risks, recover gracefully when things go wrong. An emergency fund isn't just necessary for protecting against disasters, it's your permission to live strategically. The path is simple but not easy. After this video ends, honestly calculate your monthly expenses. Set a 3-month goal for yourself, then a 6-month goal. Automate your savings. Don't let it require willpower every time, or you'll forget. In fact, as you forget and skip, you'll completely quit. Put your money in a high-interest account that grows while waiting. Keep it a bit away from yourself, but not inaccessible, just create a barrier. And then watch what happens. As the cushion grows, notice how your thinking changes. Notice how negotiations feel when the walkaway door is real. Pay attention to decisions you make out of desperation rather than feeling secure. The specific dollar amount is less important than the psychological transformation. In this process, at a different point for everyone, you'll understand that your relationship with money has fundamentally changed, meaning you'll leave scarcity mode, you'll start operating from choice mode, and that transformation will be much more valuable than any emergency the fund might cover one day. I'm Sammy. On this channel, I explain things that even your family doesn't know or knows incorrectly, thinks they know, and won't tell you. You're not alone anymore. Don't forget that Uncle Sammy is always with you. Whatever comes to mind or you want to ask, don't hesitate to write in the comments. See you in the next video. Take good care of yourselves.